to become functional, flexible, and fit during COVID-19 lockdown. Joining me today to give us some tips on how to do this is Travis Gil, the founder of Fitness Artist. Thank you so much for joining me today, Travis.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
We're going to be talking about how to become functional, flexible, and fit. That is a mouthful and it's overwhelming. How do we do this? I mean, I know when we're kids, we're able to do this, but now as adults, how do we become functional, flexible, and fit all at once?
Well, that's a great question. And, really, I came up with this idea because of COVID. Since mid-March, each of us have really had our lives flipped upside down. The stay-at-home orders have forced us to pivot unexpectedly, away from our everyday routines, especially our professional routines,
right,
and have brought us into uncharted waters. So it's really leaving most of us feeling really stressed, right? Uncomfortable, unmotivated. And then we start thinking to ourselves, like, is this the new norm?
Right.
Are we ever going to get back? So
I miss working out. I miss working out. I keep telling my brain every day I need to work out, but it's easier said than done.
A lot of it comes down to setting a routine, right? Because you're out of it now. So there are some tips that I like to incorporate into some of our.
Why don't we talk about the functional part first? Like, talk about that and give us some tips on how we can do that.
I like to relate functionality to when we were babies, right? So you look at a baby squat. I mean, literally, I have a 2-year-old, right? So when he squats, he literally brings his bottom down to about 2 inches from the ground. And his form is so perfect, right? But throughout time, throughout life, throughout work, throughout driving, we're in this position where our shoulders are rotated forward, right?
I'm doing that right now.
Up straight, right? Okay. And then our hips stay stagnant, right? So a lot of people go, well, sitting is the new smoking. It's the worst thing in the world. Yes, that's true, but standing is also a culprit.
Right. People now actually have those desks where you're standing all day, but if you're standing all day for 9 hours, that's not good either, right?
Exactly. So think about the weight distribution. So if I'm standing, I'm bringing this back, I'm standing up high, I don't know if you can see me here, but I could be like this. Look at my weight distribution.
Right.
Doing to my right hip, right? It's contracting my right side and then throwing my whole posture off. So at one point, we actually had perfect functional movement, okay?
We didn't even think about it. We just did it.
Exactly. How about being functional when you're breathing too? So you think about
very important.
Breathing. When stress hits, we tend to start breathing from our chest. So Paul, I'm going to ask you to take your left hand.
My left hand?
Yep, your left hand, and make a pledge. No, take your left hand, put it right on your chest, and then you're going to put your right hand right on your belly. All right? So from here, you're going to take 3 deep breaths. Okay?
Wait, and exhale.
Yep. Good. That's 1. That's 2, and then 1 more. Good. Okay. So now I'm even seeing it, and for the viewers that are watching this, you're seeing that left top hand, right, start to really raise. Okay?
Right.
So a lot of times throughout life, we tend to lose track of our breathing. So we actually breathe through our chest rather than our belly. Mm-hmm. So what I want you to think about, if you can replace your hand back to I want you to think about a balloon. So when you take a deep breath, I want you to relax your chest a bit. And when you inhale, I want you to blow the balloon up. So think of your belly as a balloon.
Okay.
Yep. And then you're exhaling, and then you're deflating that balloon. Okay. So that is
so fast, but take my time.
Exactly. Your diaphragm allows you.
That actually works out my abs too.
Oh yeah, exactly. So, but it also made you conscious of it, right? It made
right.
So when somebody says engage your core, you're conscious of it, right? So diaphragmatic breathing is something that we lose throughout time. That just changing some of that and being conscious of it can really get you back to feeling better. right?
So should we throughout the day take a couple of minutes and actually practice that?
Yes, definitely. I like to take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes in the morning. So I like to wake up about an hour before I have to be somewhere. During this time, we don't really have to be somewhere, right?
Nope.
So what I like to
We
do,
have all the time in the world.
of course. And so I like to take 5 to 10 minutes and do a little bit of even deep breathing meditation. And really, it allows me to get refocused and centered and start visualizing my day and how I want it to come about, right?
While you are practicing that.
While I'm breathing,
Okay.
yes.
What about the movement part?
So the movement, the movement really comes down to.
Because, I mean, whether we're sitting at the desk or standing, like,
right.
What are some tips to change
Definitely.
that bit?
Combat that, right? So what you want to do is you want to work deep into that muscle tissue, that fascia, to expand the fascia out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know when the last time you actually got a deep tissue massage. So it's kind of a similar thing. You massage?
Long time. Now they're all closed anyway.
Right? It's wild. But this lacrosse ball here, right? So this is like my little best friend. I bring this thing with me everywhere. So if I know I'm going to be seated for a while, or if I know I'm going for a long ride in the car, I'll bring this lacrosse ball. So what it does is it works deep into that muscle tissue to expand. So what I'll do while I'm driving or sitting, I'll actually take this lacrosse ball, safety first when you're driving, right?
Right.
I'll take this lacrosse ball and I'll actually place it right in the upper back area. And I'll kind of just hold there and I'll massage out that trigger point. So I'm getting deep into the muscle tissue and expanding. So if I'm super tight here and I can get deep into that trigger point, I can release it to my postures here. Also, a lot of times when you're typing for hours on end, right? Or your forearm is stuck in a, kind of a compromised position, right? So you may develop some carpal tunnel.
I had that last week.
Yeah. So like right in your thumb?
Yes.
Okay. So a great thing to do would just take this lacrosse ball and massage it out.
Okay.
Right. So I like to get deep into the thickness of the thumb here and then into the sides of the hand down by the pinky.
For how long?
When you're first starting out, you're going to be a lot more tender because your body's like, what are you doing to me? So I like to take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes in each muscle group. Okay. And the thing with fascia is you want to take your time with it. So you really want to think about like rolling out dough. Like you want to get into that dough and you want to roll it out. So find that trigger point, hold, breathe into it, right? Diaphragmatic breathe, and then release. So I usually take about 2 to 3 minutes per body part. At night, I like to, if I'm watching Netflix, I'm into a new Netflix show. Instead of sitting down and watching, I'll actually get on the ground, or I'll take a lacrosse ball, and bring it with me onto the couch, and I'll roll out, say, the side of my back, my lats, right? So there's so many different areas of the body that you can hit with this lacrosse ball. So definitely a great thing. So that will help increase your functionality and get that connective tissue more elongated so you can actually get into that position that you want to be in. So, and then you look at the stretching end. How many of you at home are actually stretching, right? No stretch?
I fail again.
That's okay. That's all right. So today is going to be a new day for you, Paula, and you're going to start stretching. All right. So
how do I do that? Let's talk about that.
Definitely. So, instead of complicating things so much, I like to take anywhere from 5 to 7 different stretches and do them on a daily basis. So again, if I know I'm going to be sitting for a while or standing, or if I know I'm going to go out and do yard work, right? So you've got to kind of prime your body a bit. And you don't have to make it so complicated.
You have 7 different types that you recommend. Do you want to go through them?
Yeah, for sure. So what I'll do is I'll actually go through these, and I'm in my work attire, right? So if you're working, you don't need a big space. One of the things I like to do is kind of warm up the hips. So I'm just going to get up and I'm going to do a kind of a knee grab here. All right. So I'm warming up my hip flexors.
And
so,
Travis, I should do that for how long?
So typically 20 to 30 seconds.
Okay.
Really doesn't need to be that crazy. So this 5 to 7 different stretches that you can do takes about 3 to 5 minutes. After warming up those hip flexors, all right, we're going to then go into the back of our legs, so our hamstrings. Go into an alternate toe tap. So I'm standing up tall. I'm setting my hips back. A lot of times when we bend down, our first movement is here. So look at my rounded back, right? So I want to set my hips back and focus on those hamstrings. Take the lower back out of play here. So I'm just alternating here, starting to get those hamstrings warmed up and talking to me. I'm gonna hit another hamstring here. Frankenstein kicks, alternating, okay? Then I'm just gonna go side to side. Just get side to side. How many times do you move side to side? All the time. We're so focused on forward and back, right? So moving laterally is important. And then we're gonna go into a lunge twist. This is one of my favorites. So I'm stepping, lunging down, and I'm twisting to that lead leg side. So I'm getting a stretch through my hip flexors, right?
And you're going the opposite direction of your leg, right?
My lead leg, I know it's kind of weird with the camera, right? So my lead leg, I'm twisting to that side.
To that side.
Right? So I'm kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm getting my hip flexors, my quads, my lower back, my upper back, right? And my core. So I'm here and I'm stepping, push back, and then I'm just alternating. Get that twist. And so before you get into movement, you want to hit notice how all those are moving, right? So that's a dynamic stretch.
Yeah.
Because I'm priming my body.
And for the people who are working from home and are sitting, standing, how many times a day should they do that?
So I have a 20-minute rule, right? So if I'm at home and I'm sitting, I'm working, after 20 minutes, I'll get up and I'll reverse my posture, right? So I'll stand for 20 minutes. All right, so the object is that you're continually reversing your posture. You really get into trouble when you're stagnant. So if you look at our spine isn't rounded at the top, right? So we're stuck in that flexion, it's called, right?
Right.
So there's an ancient Chinese proverb that says your age is correlated directly with the health of your spine, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're here in this position, think about how many times do you tell your elders that you got to sit up straight?
I tell my 13-year-old that all the time.
Exactly. Well, it's so true though, and so what I would suggest is after that 20 minutes, right, is to get up and reverse that posture. Where you're standing up tall and you're kind of getting into that extension stretch. A lot of times I like to lay on the ground and kind of be in that cobra pose where I get that lower back extension.
Okay.
It's very hard to get an extension in your lower back if you're seated.
Right.
All right. So unless you're here and you're really over exaggerating.
And of course, like that posture doesn't feel comfortable because when I tell my teenagers, they say, well, this doesn't seem normal. But after you do it for a while, it does become normal.
It's the new normal, right?